Suprabhatam friends, welcome to my channel Plants and Me. This is Dr. Sridevi from Mangaluru, Karnataka, India. Today's video will be about setting up the garden. How to go about starting a garden. This basic question had been asked by many of my friends, so I thought I'll make a video on this. So basically, when someone wants to start a garden, we have to first take a few factors into consideration, like time, space, then water supply in your area, and sunlight. All these factors, they determine the health of your garden. So first we will see the time requirement. Time is individual to each individual. Each person has got his own timings. Some people will be at home, some people will be working. So it depends on how much time you would like to devote for your garden. But I feel time can be tweaked. Suppose a person is working a 9 to 4 job, then how much time we can give to the garden on public holidays, on a Sunday, how much we can devote our time. That is very important. But on willingness, our free time can be devoted to the garden, and of course it is very rewarding also. So that is about time. How much time we can give to the plants. Whether it can be a time during a working day or even on a holiday. Next is space. Space forms a very important factor for gardening. Obviously plants require a lot of space. So we can discuss this under two headings. A space which those people have who have built a house on a site. Again, here there are one or two options. The site might be covered completely with the house, so there won't be any space around the house. So such people can do gardening on the terrace. Then if there is a space around the house, that can be used for gardening. Then there are people who stay in flats or quarters or flats for that matter. So for such people also, balcony will provide the space required for gardening. Of course it's a limited space. Still it can be tweaked by going for a vertical gardening. Vertical gardening in the sense you can place a few shelves in the garden, so that will hold quite a few plants and that will increase the number of plants in your garden. I will put a pic of a shelf which I set up for my cactus and succulents. So that is about space. Yes, as I said, on willingness this space can also be tweaked. A lot can be done. A lot of space can be created, in fact. Then comes the water schedule. Now water these days has become very precious, so people get limited water supply, and sometimes there are timings in which the water is supplied. So depending on the availability of water, these plants can be planned, garden can be planned. That is, if a person has got very limited amount of water supply, in a day it is supplied only for few hours. Of course that can be stored, everyone stores that water, but such people can plan for a cactus and succulent garden. because these cactus and succulent, they require very less water. If there is lots of water supply, like in my place, I get water every day in the evening at about 3 o'clock, and it goes on till 8 o'clock. The water supply is till 8 o'clock. So I have I can have plants which require lots of water, which require daily watering. So plants can be planned depending on your water supply, because the water requirement for all the plants is not the same. Some require daily watering, some require once in 2-3 days. So accordingly it has to be planned. So after the water supply, taking the water supply into consideration, we will go for the next factor, that is sunlight. All, as I said, all the plants, actually plants are just like kids, or like how in family member you have different variety of people in your family. Same way each plant is like a member of family, and each plant has got different requirements. So even sunlight requirement for the plants is different. Some require full sun, some require shade. They don't like direct sun falling on them, but they require sunlight. We have learnt in our school, plants require sunlight for growth. Yes, of course they require sunlight for growth. So that requirement, amount of sunlight requirement is different. So what we have to do is, we have to take a tour of the place which is available for gardening. For example, if someone is planning to have a garden in and around the house, that means house is built on a site, and in and around the house there is place available for garden. So such people should take a tour of the house, in and around the house, and see where sunlight is available, how much amount of sunlight is available, and till what time. There are, as I told, there are plants which require full sun. Full sun in the sense, from morning till evening they require sun, minimum 8 hours of sunlight, and especially the vegetables. So for such plants you have to find out a place which gets full sun. Then there are plants which want shade, but they require sun. That means they require bright indirect sun. So for such plants also you have to find out a place where direct sun doesn't fall. Indirectly the light will fall on the plants. I'll show you with an example. So this is an example of bright indirect light. If you see, the sun rays are falling till this compound wall. The sun is actually on this side, on the east side. This is the west side of my house. So on the east till there, now the sun will come in the afternoon like this. On by 12 o'clock it will be vertically up, and after 1 it starts falling, coming this side, and by 2 or 3 the rays will fall directly on the Hoya plants. So now they are getting bright indirect light. The sun rays are falling till here, and these plants are getting indirect sunlight. So this is a very good example of bright indirect sun. So that is this dappled sunlight. I have a few trees behind my house. So if you observe on this leaf, light is falling in pieces here and there, even on this creeper. So that is called as dappled sunlight or filtered light. Otherwise, if you observe here, all the plants are in shade, and at that corner there is a dappled light. That heart-shaped leaf is Anthurium nymphifolium. Here also the plant is getting dappled sunlight. So this is called as a shady place because direct light is not falling, and even if it is falling, it is like this filtered light. So this happens up to 11 o'clock here, but there is sunlight falling on the plants in the morning up to 11 o'clock. Now it's 12 o'clock, so there is no sunlight here, and all the plants are in shade. So this is one of my full sun spot. As you can see, the sun falls directly on them. The sun falls here for about 3 to 4 o'clock. So from morning till evening there is no shade or anything, so you can see how the plants are shining in the sunlight. All this area is full sun area. Then after the sunlight requirements, the requirement for a garden is fertilizer. So before going to the fertilizer, I would like to touch upon another factor. I was talking about the sunlight requirement around the house. People staying in flat, they also have to take a look at the balcony and then plan the garden. Where the sunlight falls, at what time, where there is shade, always there is shade. Sometimes in the morning there will be sun and then the place goes into shade. So all such places have to be explored. Then for people who do terrace gardening, that means gardening on the terrace, they want to have plants on the terrace because they do not have place in and around the house. So for such people, terrace definitely gives a wide space, but the sunlight requirement, as I told, for plants is different. So for shade plants, etc., special arrangements like net, etc., have to be made. Now these nets come like 50%, 70% and 90% nets. They are green nets. 50% means the holes will be little bigger and it will allow more sunlight to enter. 90% means it will give more shade and sunlight will pass but little amount. So for shade plants, they will have to make an arrangement with these green nets. And of course for full sun plants, it will be a bumper because lots of sunlight will fall on the terrace. So on the terrace, if it is covered, like in Mangalore, people cover the terrace because of heavy rainfalls. The water needs to slide off. It cannot be stagnant on the terrace, so they cover it. So if it is such a terrace, then only shade plants can be kept on the terrace, and near the edge of the parapet wall a few sun plants can be kept, but it will be more congenial for the shade plants. So that is about sunlight requirement for terrace gardening. Next comes the fertilizers. Fertilizer is again a very important factor for plants. Whether the plants are in the ground or in the pot, they require fertilizer. Whatever food material is available in the ground or in the pot, that will be used up. Obviously, when the plant is growing, whatever nourishment is there in the pot or in the ground, that is going to be used up. So that has to be replenished. So for that sake, fertilizers are useful. So fertilizers can be organic or inorganic, but mostly these days organic fertilizers are used. Inorganic also play an important role. They give quick results, so they also can be. You can employ a mixed type of fertilizer, like organic and inorganic both can be used in certain proportion, and that can be applied to the garden. So inorganic fertilizers like vermicompost, cow dung manure, bone meal, castor cake powder, then sesame seed cake powder, seed cake powder. So all these come under organic fertilizers. Of course, each one of them has got their own uses that I will cover when I am talking about fertilizers in my next video. Then inorganic fertilizers are like DAP, NPK, potassium. All these are chemicals. And these chemicals, they should be applied in very little quantity, otherwise they will burn the plant. Organic fertilizers, they don't harm the plants as such, but applying the amount which is required by the plant will be apt. You can't load the plant with the fertilizer just because it is organic. So that is about fertilizers. And I would like to say that if you have time but no space or interest, then one cannot do gardening. If you have space but no time or interest, again gardening is not possible. So what I feel is gardening is an effort, combined effort of time, space, etc. and interest. Of course you will do gardening because of interest only. So it's a combination of these three factors. Now some people ask me, is gardening a hard work? Of course it is a hard work. Physical work is required in that. But this physical hard work comes out of devotion. Gardening requires a lot of devotion, and without that it's not possible. So this hard work will come out of devotion. So I hope this video will help you to plan your garden. Whatever space is there, in that space you can plan your garden. And one more thing, very important thing which we need to remember is, always try to grow plants which are suitable for your climate. That is very important. You cannot grow a plant which does not like your climate. Like for example, Withania somnifera likes dry climate. It doesn't like humid climate. So I cannot grow. Mangalore is a place which has got high humidity, high rainfall. So I cannot grow Withania somnifera here. In fact, to be very frank and honest, I tried to grow, but it doesn't grow. It might survive for 1 or 2 months, but eventually it will not survive. So you need to buy plants which will survive in your climate. That is very important. So I hope this video gives you an insight of how to plan a garden and how to go about buying plants. Most of the plants will be available in your local nursery. So give visits to your local nursery and buy plants from them. So hope I am of some use in planning your garden. Thanks for joining. Take care. Bye.